Success in life is founded upon attention to the small things rather than the large things, to the everyday things nearest to us rather than to the things that are remote and uncommon. Folks, that is Booker T. Washington, famous man. And of course, what Mr. Washington tells us is sage advice. He used it to be very successful in his life, and we have to focus on the things that are near at hand, the small things. 10 to 15 minutes a day, that's all it takes for you to learn mastery of the market. You don't have to work on Wall Street. You don't have to be up there. You have to learn to follow price movement. That's not watching CNBC or Bloomberg or these business channels and reading the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, all that trying to crimp out the business news. Follow these charts with us. You've seen us show you how successful this is. We want you to practice trade with us. We're not a stock calling service. We're an education firm. You can learn what we teach, and you can apply it to ETFs, stocks, whatever they might be that are chartable. And again, that is, you have weekly vertical crossovers that work, 2-day recrosses that work. Invariably, ours work over and over again. Let's jump into the S&P 500, one that is weak right now after the starting point. If you're like me, I jumped into this trade on Friday, and what has it done to me so far? Well, it has been shown a great deal of weakness. Now, what do we have going for us? Again, all of your loss limits always apply. Your best loss that is within your loss limits is your first loss. We gave you the training earlier this week on profit and loss bands. I hope you caught it and you paid attention to it. Don't forget tonight, for everyone who's a subscriber, and you can subscribe for free, but you've missed it if you didn't subscribe before, this is part 3, Options Made Simple, How to Practice Trade Options. It's the wrap-up. It is the piece de resistance. You will love it. It pulls everything together on those 2 prior trainings, part 1 and 2. If you missed it, sign up. We'll put it out again over the next few weeks. You guys begged me for years to put together an options training. I finally bent to your will and did it. But again, to trade options, my friends, you got to be able to track charts. If you can't track stocks and ETFs, you got no business dealing with options. You'll lose your ass even faster than if you don't know what you're doing with just ETFs and stocks alone. So, I want you to practice trade, learn to show yourself approved, then you can start practice trading options. Now, let's talk about what we see happening. We have a green spinning top. Indecision, tending up still at this point. Wick on the bottom, wick on the top. We see that, again, the derivative oscillators moving up. Price percent oscillators flattened mightily, still barely moving up. Go to the 2-day chart. What do we see there? 2-day chart's weakening, heading, looks like it's flat, maybe down a little bit. Derivative oscillator's been going down since the 17th. Now, of course, the prior candle representing Friday and Monday, big green up candle. What do we have now? We have what we call an indecision candle. That is, we have a solid red spinning top, long wick on the bottom, little wick on the top. It is indecision tending down. If you've had your loss limits, of course, you would pull the trigger, get out of the trade at this point. Look where we are on our 2-day trend line. We're right there below it. So we've already violated the 2-day trend line. So that's already giving us some concerns. Now, the weekly still going up, the 2-day still positive. So it's still positive, although it's going down a little bit. We look at the 4-hour chart. You've now got 3 down candles crossed over back in the afternoon on Tuesday. And look at what we see on the 4-hour chart, penetrating below the weekly trend line. Another warning to you. So again, if you see any continued movement of this, you've had a penetration not only of the 2-day, that happened in the morning on Wednesday. You've now seen a penetration of the weekly trend line. Those are all warning signs. Best loss is always your first loss. Not saying it won't pop up tomorrow, but tomorrow you better pay close attention if you're in a practice trade as to what's going on here. I don't want us to lose out on this, but you know what will happen? If you pull your practice trade on this and the market turns around and goes back up, you'll probably have a 4-hour crossover going up that might give you a point to jump in, particularly if the 2-day and the weekly are still moving up, haven't crossed over. So be patient. Let's see what happens. Let price movement educate you, inform you, pay attention to it. It's the only thing that counts. Down for the day 1.77% on the S&P. The NASDAQ 100 down 1.25%. Now we see it again on the weekly chart. Just trying to, there we go. What we see on the weekly chart is continued up movement, higher candle body than last week, higher high so far. We see the 2-day, and this is a complete, well, I'm sorry, we're on the weekly. We're 3 days into the weekly candle, so we have 2/5 of it left. We see the derivative oscillator heading up. Price percent oscillators lost some energy, but again, everything on the weekly still looks okay. Let's look at the 2-day. What does it show us? Again, just like the S&P, it's less than flat. It's actually flat heading down a little bit. And how did this last candle end up? Red spinning top. On the NASDAQ 100, we look at the 2-day trend line. We could monkey around with that. We don't want to create trend lines that totally serve us. However, we do have further trend lines that are up. About all we can do on that, though, is probably just attach the latest, the prior 4 days. But again, we're close to penetration of that. The candle wick itself did penetrate it. So again, some weakening we see on the 2-day. Now let's look at the 4-hour. What do we see there? 3 down candles punch through the 2-day at the end of the day, the 2-day trend line, but we don't see the 4-hour candles punching through the weekly yet like we saw with the S&P. So we have some concern, not as much as with the S&P. I hope you're practice trading these things. I really hope you are, because your notes on your trade worksheet, those are available for free in the show notes PDFs. You can print them out, which you've got to do if you want to learn anything from your trades. You will develop a body of knowledge that will help you immensely. So I hope you are doing that, and I hope you are practice trading these things and learning what there is to learn. Of course, immensely successful trade with this weekly vertical crossover that we have had on the Qs thus far. Now again, you can take your profit at any time with a successful trade like that. Now, we're going to go from stocks to bonds. Consequently, we like to see this. Stocks are down, bonds and gold are up. We want the market to work that way. Now, we see, however, a red down candle that's forming for the week. We had a much more powerful crossover when bonds were down on Monday. That's weakened. I told you it could bounce off of that. We could, by the end of the week, not have a weekly vertical crossover. Still trying to cross. We don't call it until it's done. That's the reason we don't call the crossover until Friday, right there at the close of the market. Derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. We go from the weekly to the 2-day. And of course, that 2-day, we have a green spinning top, solid green. It's not an open box green candle. So again, indecision, tending up, not super strong, tending up. But again, that's where we show that 2-day candle ending up. 4-hour chart, we see 3 decently strong candles moving up in the morning, a little bit higher in the afternoon. Derivative oscillator gaining momentum, price percent oscillator heading up. So we'll watch and see what happens with bonds by the end of the week. Do we have a weekly vertical crossover going down? Don't know if that's going to happen. If it does, it does. Last chart in our main series of 4 is gold, up almost a percent today, 0.96%. What do we see happening on our weekly chart? Green spinning top right now, indecision tending up. Price is just above that weekly trend line. Price percent oscillator not quite flat, heading up a little bit. Derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. Go to the 2-day chart. What do we see there? Green spinning top there, also still negative. So again, for there to be any hope for us, and to not confuse us, we don't have the ability really to redraw. We're just going to remove that trend line for the moment. So what we really have happening is a sideways slide in gold. It'd be nice to see the 2-day chart crossover going up, give us a recross so we could jump into gold, but we've been hoping for that. We'll see if indeed that occurs. What do we see going on the 4-hour chart? Well, we saw it crossover going up in the afternoon. And again, we'll watch, see what there is to see, what there is to learn. And you know what I'm going to do also is, well, I could move this trend line over. This is what's so beautiful about TC2000, freestockcharts.com, but particularly the paid version, is the ease with which to put things on the chart. And those of you who've dealt with TC2000, I want to tell you, if you subscribe, pay close attention to whenever Chris and his guys start up the free weekend trainings. It's actually on a Friday and a Saturday. I told y'all I did that. The last one, I don't know when the next one's going to happen, but right as the coronavirus started hitting, spent a weekend in Charlotte, a Friday and a Saturday. Fabulous training. Man, it is so impressive. All the stuff I thought I knew was dwarfed by what this platform really does. And there's a link in your show notes, $25 off if you subscribe. I can't say enough good things about it. Okay, that is where we are as far as our 4 main charts go. We've got second edition of the book, Charting Your Way to Wealth, available. Love to have you buy it. We're about to launch into Bitcoin, real estate, and oil. Let's get there. Okay, Bitcoin up 2.34%. Let's get out of the 4-hour chart. Always start, remember, with your weekly chart. What do we see? We had 2 prior super strong weeks, that weekly vertical crossover. This week, some weakening. We still have a red open box candle, not a solid red down candle, but again, a slowing down. Now, Bitcoin up nonetheless, 2.34 derivative oscillator and price percent oscillator heading up, so not all hope is lost at all. Look at the 2-day chart. We have a solid red down candle on this last one. We had it before, though, in the past, prior to consolidation and up movements. So we'll see just what goes on. 2-day chart still heading up. So that's good to see. What about the 4-hour chart? It's crossed over going down, and this may mean some consolidation. We can see where things have bottomed. So what does this mean for you if you want to practice trade Bitcoin? Wait for that 4-hour chart to cross over going up. It's a recross. Now, it's the weakest type of recross, but again, with this energy that's been in Bitcoin, you might be able to find yourself jumping in to a 4-hour practice trade going up if indeed that rotates back over. The derivative oscillator's got to gain a whole bunch of energy because it is still going negative, but don't hesitate to practice trade it if you see it cross over going up. Now, we're going to leave Bitcoin and we're going to go to real estate, down again, 2.42%. Red down candle on the weekly chart. Big wick on the bottom, but a solid red down candle. Little wick on top, about 3/4 of the size of the candle itself. Solid red. We see the price percent oscillator squeaking over, going down. Derivative oscillator has turned green, but remember, primary indicator is that price percent oscillator. What do we see going on with the 2-day chart? Not crossed over going down yet, but looks like it's getting close to it. We will see what happens. Maybe we'll have a 2-day recross going down, and you can short real estate again. 4-hour chart's been going down now 2 days. So what I expect, what does my common sense tell me? Honestly, my common sense tells me not to second guess price movement. I've tried to use my common sense too many times to be smarter than the market, but I can't do it. So if the charts tell me what to do, I do it. I don't sit there and say, well, there's no way the stock market's going to go up while the entire world is shut down. It has been. It's called the bull trap. I'm going to put at the end of today's video special training for you on Corona investing. Tells you all about the bull trap, which may be underway of being sprung right now. Last, we go to oil, which I almost called it gold then, which I invariably refer to as gold. It's black gold. Forgive me when I do that. A little bit of mercy for me, please. What do we see going on with oil? Oil down again today, 1.76%. Is oil trying to find a bottom? Well, it went as low as 1688. Ended the day down, like I said, 1.76%. Looks like around 20.60. $20.60. Derivative oscillator still losing downward momentum, but that price percent oscillator still heading down, plumbing the bottom. Look at the 2-day though. Maybe gold is going to swing through and gain a little back. Still, it's going to be a long time probably till that weekly chart crosses over going up. And we look at the 4-hour chart. That's where we see the action over the last day and a half heading down. So we'll watch, see what there is to see. Remember, your controlling chart is your weekly. The one that confirms some of that stuff is the 2-day. And then the least reliable is the 4-hour. And use your trend lines. Use all your charts all the time. You want to know what we're all about? You need to read our book, Charting Your Way to Wealth. The copy can be yours. Follow the link in the show notes. If you live overseas, just simply email me, cw@chartingwealth.com. Going to have some good news coming out soon. Advanced Market Mastery. I'm going to reoffer the course. You guys know how that works. I interview everyone that I let into the program. I am very limited on the number of people that we're willing to teach. But if you're interested, we'll be sending out some emails and talking more about it later. God bless. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.